Welcome back to another TweakTown weekly podcast. We're going to be talking about a bunch of games today. There's been a lot that's happened during the week for both consoles and the PC and just the industry in general. As you can see, we've got a big story here about Ubisoft, which we're going to talk about soon. We're going to start with the news that Microsoft have come out and said that the screenshot feature on the Xbox One is quote unquote more challenging than they thought. Xbox boss Phil Spencer, he's come out and said that it was a little more technically challenging than they thought. They thought that I thought they found a good solution for screenshots. Microsoft has said that they're working on it. They are aware that customers and gamers want it, and they've said that the team at Microsoft is actually on a path to getting it done, and now it's just prioritizing. They said that there's going to be a new update coming out for the Xbox One in December, so about 4 or 5 weeks away, hopefully before Christmas, or I'm guessing it'll be before Christmas, and that they're going to actually hopefully see the screenshot feature unveiled, but it doesn't look like it's going to be included into the December patch, which is a bit disappointing. But that's Microsoft for you. Obviously, that feature is a bit too hard. You think for a next generation console that adding in the ability to take screenshots wouldn't be that hard, but it obviously is, and that's just sad that it's something so simple on PC. Like you can see here that I have the snipping tool, and I actually use it a lot, so I can just I want to take a screenshot of this, like that's it, and it's done within seconds. I can press the print screen button. I can have different software take a picture of my screen or from my Google Chrome tab or whatever, and it just works. I don't see why Microsoft having such a hard time getting such a simple feature online, but we'll see when that comes. Second, we heard about Naughty Dog. After everything with, again, on the right here, you see that we're talking about Ubisoft with 30 FPS, which I'm always insulting because I'll flog that dead horse forever. But with Naughty Dog, they've actually said that The Last of Us remastered on the PlayStation 4 was running at 1080p and mostly 60 frames a second. So it dropped on The Last of Us debuted on the PlayStation 3, and then it was re-released as The Last of Us Remastered on the PlayStation 4, and it was rendering at 1080p and mostly 60 frames a second. So it was running at 60 frames a second most of the time, but sometimes it would drop down to maybe 45, 50 frames a second, depending on how much action or the lighting effects or whatever's dragging down the frame rate. But then Uncharted 4 is coming out sometime hopefully next year on the PlayStation 4, and Naughty Dog have been talking about whether it's going to be running at 1080p or not, at 60 frames a second, because that's what, again, The Last of Us Remastered did, and it'd be, again, a very big thing for the PlayStation to see such a large title, especially a PlayStation exclusive franchise like Uncharted to run at 1080p 60 frames a second. So the community manager at Naughty Dog has said they were asked when whether 1080p 60 frames per second is going to be happening on Uncharted 4, and they said, I think that's what we want to push for with anything we're doing on this generation. That's sort of the mandate for when we were building the PS4 engine. Let's see if we can do this and hit it. We hit it with The Last of Us Remastered, so why not stick with this? So it looks like, again, they've built The Last of Us in an engine that's capable of being run on the PlayStation 4. They hit the 1080p 60 FPS mark, and they want to stick at that, which is great to hear. Considering that most, which is sad, most of the games, like probably 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 of the AAA titles that are coming out on this generation of consoles, the Xbox One and PS4, they're being rendered at 900p or less, which is no better than the last generation. And we were doing higher resolutions than that on PC 10 years ago. So we shouldn't be happy about this, but we should at the same time, because PlayStation 4 fans, PlayStation 4 gamers are going to be getting a great game like Uncharted 4, which I'm sure is going to be a great game, running at 1080p 60 FPS, which is, for me, the bare minimum of what they should be doing. So we haven't had full confirmation of this, but we should hopefully see 1080p 60 FPS in Naughty Dog's Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Continuing with PlayStation news, there's a new update coming to the PlayStation 4 very soon, which is going to provide SharePlay, USB music player, and more. So if you haven't heard about SharePlay, what it is that, for example, say you own a game like Uncharted, or no, say you own a game like The Last of Us Remastered, and you want to share it with me, and I don't own the game, you can share it with me, and I get to play it for free for 60 minutes of game time at a time. So I can just play an hour and be like, oh wow, that game is great. I'm going to go back to it later, and then I can play another hour, or I might play it for an hour or two and think that's great. Like I want to play it with my friend that shared it with me, so I'm going to go out and buy it. It's a nice thing to see that Sony's doing like that kind of out of the box thinking without really pushing it with marketing. If that was me, like SharePlay is a big feature. If they were to do that, it's going to drop game sales down because you're going to have a family that might have two PlayStation 4s in the house, or in two separate houses, like like brothers or friends or whatever, and you can buy one game. And someone who works full time or works two jobs or has a family, they don't have the time to sink 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day, or even 5 or 6 hours a week into the game. That I might only play an hour here or an hour there, and that's perfect for people like that. It's absolutely perfect, because you're able to share your games. And then you might have one person that might buy one game, and you have another person buy another game, and then you can share those games between each other, which is, again, it's a really, really cool feature. The new update will be available on the 28th of October, which should be tomorrow. This podcast will be up by then, but I'm in Australia, so this will be about 1.5 days from now, hitting the States. And the new update is going to have a USB music player, so you can plug in a USB flash drive or a USB hard drive, and you'll be able to play music off of that, which again it's like the Microsoft thing. It's not like a screenshot ability. It doesn't sound like it should be a big thing, but it is a big thing on these next generation consoles. You shouldn't have to be bragging about these points, but here we are. So that should be again on the 28th of October. Then the big news. This is probably one of the bigger articles that we're going to be talking about today. Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 4 will reportedly run at 1080p. Which is a huge. I didn't think it had happened, but if Rockstar have pulled it off, this is going to be massive for the PlayStation, massive for Sony, especially if Microsoft, I'm guessing, is only going to be running it at 900p, which is something that I said in my article below. But Original PlayStation Magazine in the UK actually called it, quote unquote, a game changer. So this is the screenshot of the upcoming 10-page article. And they had a huge statement to say regarding PlayStation 4 version of Grand Theft Auto 5. So they say Grand Theft Auto 5 on PlayStation 4 breathes fresh, oh so new gen life into the greatest game ever committed to Blu-ray. So again, that's a pretty big statement to say, considering how many games are coming out, big AAA titles. But then Original PlayStation Magazine continues, and I kind of agree and I don't agree with it, and I'll talk about it just after. So they said, farewell 720p, you served your purpose adequately enough. Still, our eyes have been gagging for 1080p's pin-sharp pleasures, and Los Santos Sandbox is only too happy to oblige on PlayStation 4, running at a native 1920 by 1080 pixels. For a game erected on hundreds of tiny incidental details, the resolution bump is a huge game changer for GTA 5. Glimmering 1080p presentation, hugely increased draw distance, 100 new songs, fresh wildlife, a bumper version of GTA Online. This is a sandbox. This is sandbox you've dreamt about ever since you slotted Sony's Angular baby under your TV. Now, that's fine, but just the 2 words here you see, farewell 720p. No, that's kind of wrong, because GTA 5 is only one game, and sure, it is an absolutely gigantic, mammoth game, and it will sell and probably make hundreds of millions more dollars for Rockstar and Sony. But it's not farewell 720p because there's only one game. The next game that comes out on PlayStation 4 is going to be rendered at 720p or 900p. I think it's going to be another year or two until we start seeing 1080p as the native resolution on all the games. And even when that happens, it's not like it's going to be next generation graphics as well. You're going to have to substitute either higher fidelity graphics with higher details and longer draw distance, or 1080p. And then it's going to be another year or two until we see both. Until they start really drawing the absolute maximum, squeezing every single bit and byte of data out of those consoles. But it's great to see an absolutely huge game like GTA 5 running at 1080p on the PlayStation 4. Now we need to know about frame rate. Is it going to be 1080p and 30 FPS? Because if it was me, I'd prefer something like 900p at 60 frames per second. 1080p and 60 FPS would be the best of both worlds, but we'll see. Next up, for Halo fans, Microsoft a couple of days ago showed off the latest trailer for their TV series, Halo Nightfall, which doesn't actually look too bad. You can see a lot of Halo in this. We'll turn it down a little bit.
And take life where only God can give it.
What the hell are they doing here?
They got their hands on a compound that kills humans and nothing else.
Medical says they've never seen anything like it.
Someone's found the Holy Grail then, haven't they?
It's time to take the war to them.
Be a bold move. Send a team in, destroy the stuff.
I hear you need a ship.
Only work better alone.
Shouldn't fear me. I'm just one man.
One man that was a Spartan.
Ready to go to hell, Colonel?
Never thought we'd set foot on the Halo ring.
Are we really doing this?
Stay on mission.
Got something.
What the hell are they?
We will not go out like this. My question to you, Commander Locke. How will you lead? And for what?
Definitely wasn't too bad at all. I played the first Halo when it very first came out on the original Xbox, and at the time the graphics leapfrogged PC by a decent margin. You had a lot of great effects in the game, but now there's nothing that draws me towards it. And then the other problem is that this is going to be an exclusive to the Xbox, so it's not like you can be able to watch this on PC or on your media player or on TV, which sucks. But there you go. There's a look at Halo Nightfall. The trailer is available on our site if you want to take a look. Next up, we have Rice Patch. So Rise Son of Rome was an Xbox One exclusive from Crytek. It launched with the Xbox One and was one of the best, if not the best, title, and still one of the best, if not the best looking title on the Xbox One. It just recently launched on the PC a couple of weeks ago, and Crytek have already pumped out a patch for it, which provides increased performance on S-Line Crossfire builds, with better optimization, probably better scaling, and quality improvements. As well as that, it gives improved GPU performance on NVIDIA cards, especially the new GTX 980 and GTX 970 versions. So if you've got a second generation Maxwell GPU, which are amazing by the way, you can run Rise now at a better frame rate, which is good to see. There's also a bunch of bug fixes that you can see here. There's a bunch of stuff that Crytek fixed. Next news is League of Legends has made a absolute bundle of cash this year. So according to the latest data that we can see here from Super Data Research, they're comparing the top 10 MMOs, and yes, there's a period there. There's a star that I'm talking about. That League of Legends is a MOBA, and it's not an MMO, but still, really, it's a massively multiplayer online game. It's still an MMO. Like it's massive for one, it's multiplayer for two, and it's online for three. So to me, it is an MMO. In a way, I think MMO, you're seeing those lines being blurred because of the whole World of Warcraft thing. You're seeing these games now take over. Even games like World of Tanks, you wouldn't consider that a massive multiplayer online game, but it is because it's massive and it's multiplayer and it's online. So I agree. Like, I had a lot of comments that saying this wasn't an MMO. I had a couple of friends that actually messaged me and went, you've got the right title, or not the right title, you've got the right words in the article. It's not an MMO, but it really is. So anyway, League of Legends this year, up until now, we've still got 2 full months, 2 and a little bit months, so about 9 weeks left of the year. League of Legends has a revenue of $946 million so far, which is just insane. So from January to September, So really, we're not even counting October, which is you've got grand finals for all the tournaments, then November and December. November, December is when all the other games start coming out, which might take a little bit of playtime away from League of Legends, but it's still absolutely huge. Nearly $1 billion for a game that is free. And then there's other games that you've probably never heard of. I never heard of Crossfire until I wrote this article. Dungeon Fighter Online I didn't know about. MapleStory I didn't know about. But all the rest are obviously big titles like Counter-Strike Online, Hearthstone, World of Tanks, World of Warcraft. But Crossfire is again, it's a huge title, $897 million. Year to date, Dungeon Fighter Online, $891 million. That's nearly $3 billion just there. Just for those 3 titles. League of Legends alone is nearly $1 billion on itself, which is just insane. Like, if you had said a couple of years ago that this game from this pretty much an unknown kind of company that's going to come out and change everything online, and it has. League of Legends is absolutely huge right now, and to have $1 billion of revenue, you know, the profits on that game must be close to 90%. So we see that the worldwide MMO revenue is $7.9 billion. With the entire MMO market expected to generate around $11 billion this year. And by 2017, so, according to Superdata, that's going to climb up to about $13 billion. And right now, as it stands, MMOs represent 21% of the overall digital games market. So it's big business, and that's why you're going to see more and more of this. So again, where League of Legends has made $1 billion, you don't hear about it. And a lot of people were kind of shocked when I wrote the article that League of Legends is making that much money. And if you think that a company like, say, Activision launches Call of Duty and it makes $1 billion at launch, oh my god, I made $1 billion, but the sales taper off so quickly. Where League of Legends is making more and more money the longer it's out. You know, Call of Duty, yes, the franchise itself makes many more billions of dollars than League of Legends, but it's over a longer period of time with multiple games being released. And much more marketing pumped out. Activision spend more on marketing for Call of Duty than they do in development. Where League of Legends, for example, is making more money the longer it's out, and they haven't released a new game. There's no League of Legends 2. There's no League of Legends 3. There's no League of Legends DLC pack where you're paying $30 for some new characters and maps and tree details. This is making billions of dollars per year for the single game, which to me is impressive. It's absolutely amazing that Riot Games are able to do that. Next up is some nostalgia for you. So, I'm 31 years old, so I grew up with 3D Realms and Shadow Warrior and Duke Nukem and Commander Keen and Wolfenstein and Triad and so many more games. And 3D Realms have announced the 3D Realms Anthology, which is available from $19.99. It includes a bunch of games. So you get Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, Commander Keen, Commander Keen Goodbye Galaxy, Wolfenstein 3D, Rise of the Triad, Dark War, and they're all DRM free, which is amazing. And I did tease in there, which a few people noticed and liked. And I said, even these games, you know, from 10, 15, 20 years ago, run at past 30 frames a second, which is just crazy because you're getting games from Ubisoft, which are running at 30 frames a second, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, so if you wanted to have a look at this, which we're going to have a look at now, this is the 3D Realms Anthology trailer.
Hi, I'm John St. John, the voice of the guy with the mighty boot, the shades, and the gum. Never mind, I'm all out of gum. In 1990, the PC game revolution started in Dallas, Texas. 3D Realms became legend, and this is their legacy.
welcome, and I'm coming to get the rest of you alien bastards.
Sword. That's a personal weapon.
Which you can buy for $19.99. I would suggest buying it if you played any of those games. It's an amazing walk down memory lane, and still, even to this day, there's still some great games in there. Did you play Outlast? If you did you know that there's a sequel coming? Outlast 2 from Red Barrels have confirmed that there is a second one coming. So after the team finished working on the Xbox One version of the game a couple months ago, the co-founder and designer Philippe Morin, I hope that I pronounced that right, said that the team, quote unquote, quickly realized that we had at least one horror game in us, at least another horror game in us. The game will be a survival horror experience, and it will take place in the same universe as Outlast, but it will have different characters and a different setting. We might go back to Mount Massive Asylum one day, but for now we have new ideas and themes we'd like to explore, and we think we're cooking up something special. So we don't know what it'll be, apart from them saying it's going to be an emotional ride, but the Montreal-based studio should have something to tease us with in the next couple of months. So if you liked Outlast, you definitely need to get excited for Outlast 2. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. A lot of people are waiting for this game. It's going to be absolutely huge when it launches, and it's going to be driving PCs to their limits because it's only built for next-gen consoles and PC. And there is a new 3-minute trailer, the opening cinematic for it, I should say, which you can check out below. I'm not going to play that here because it's probably a little bit not safe for work with all the violence and stuff compared to the other two trailers we just watched. But this is going to be a big game. So if you're waiting for Witcher 3, check that out. Then we've got some interesting stuff. So, Assassin's Creed Unity from Ubisoft on PC requires 6 gig of RAM. 6 gig of RAM and 50 gigabytes of hard drive space. You also need a 64-bit version of Windows, so Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1. It needs to be 64-bit, but it's just insane. Worse than that is that this game only runs 900p and 30 FPS on consoles. So I really wanted to talk about that now. So I'm going to tell you the article and I'm going to talk about it after. So the PC requirements for Assassin's Creed, 6 gig of RAM, 64-bit version of Windows 7, 8 or 8.1, and 50 gigabytes of hard drive space. Even worse than that is that you need an insane CPU and a GPU to run this game. So at minimum, you need an Intel Core i5 2500K or AMD's FX 8350 or AMD's Phenom 2 X4 940. Ubisoft recommends something a little bit faster, so we go up to the Core i7 3770 or AMD's FX 8350 or better. They recommend 8 gig of RAM, which is, again, just insane for these types of games. Like, what are they throwing into the RAM that needs 8 gig of RAM? It's just, oh my god, it's just, blows my mind. Like, literally blows my mind. I have no idea where the hell Ubisoft is going with this. Worse is the GPU side of things. So Ubisoft requires minimum requirement of a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 680 or AMD Radeon HD 7970. Now these cards are second gen, well they're 2 generations ago. We've already had the GTX 780 and now look at GTX 980. We've got the Radeon R9 290X out now, which has replaced the HD 7970. But holy shit, you need a massive amount of GPU power. Like, yes, they aren't. The GTX 680 isn't as good as the GTX 980, but GTX 680 blows away the APU, not GPU, the APU that's inside of the Xbox One and PS4. So I don't know why there's this massive requirement. Like, really, you should be saying like minimum requirement GTX 650, minimum requirement HG's 7570 or 7770, something like that, like a $200 GPU or a $150 GPU. Even then, it should be lower than that. It should be run it on the minimum graphics on Intel's processor or AMD's APU. Like, if AMD are giving out an APU in the Xbox One and PS4, why can't the APU inside of a PC run that? That's a whole argument in itself. Why can't an APU run an APU and a PC, an AMD APU, why can't that run Assassin's Creed when the APU in the Xbox One and PS4, which are both AMD built APUs, run the game? It just makes no sense. And even worse is the crazy recommended GPU that Ubisoft wants you to have. So they recommend that you have a GTX 780 or Radeon R9 290X, two of the fastest cards out in the market right now, to run the game as a recommended spec. But a minimum, absolute minimum of a GTX 680 or HD 7970, which is just ridiculous. Ubisoft, what in the hell are you doing there? I don't understand why you need such a massive GPU to run a game like this. Like, yes, the game is built like, as Ubisoft has said, Assassin's Creed Unity is built from the ground up on next-gen consoles, which is great. It is great to see that. But when next-gen consoles are only running this game at 900p, but this right here, Assassin's Creed is rendered at 900p on 30 frames a second on both the Xbox One and PS4. So I don't know why they're doing that. So then you see that, again, going back to this article, you see that a moderate CPU, Core i5 2500K, isn't that bad. So let's go to Amazon and we'll go Core i5 2500K. So what are we spending on a CPU right now? So we're looking at about $300 new, but this is an older CPU. So used is about $170. So you're recommending a pretty crazy CPU to run this game. And then going back to the recommendation, so Core i5 2500K, but then you see here, senior producer Vincent Apontbrand, again, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, had an interview with Video Game, and this is an article we wrote a couple of weeks ago, which we discussed in the previous podcast, that the game is quote-unquote CPU bound. The GPUs are really powerful. Obviously, the graphics look pretty good, but it's the CPU that has to process the AI, the number of NPCs we have on screen, all these systems running in parallel. We were quickly bottlenecked by that, and it was a bit frustrating because we thought that this was going to be a tenfold improvement over everything AI-wise, and we realized it was going to be pretty hard. It's not the number of polygons that affect the frame rate. We could be running at 100 frames a second if it was just graphics, but because of AI, we're limited to 30 frames a second. So you're seeing them blame the artificial intelligence. So unless this game has insane artificial intelligence, when I bump into someone, they follow me home and kill me, or they mug me, or the AI goes and reports me to the police or to the guards or whatever in the game. Like, the AI in these games isn't that great. Sure, it's good. It is good. I'm not saying it's bad. But the AI could be a huge leap on what we have today, and it's not. The simple fact is that it is not a huge leap on what we have today. So Assassin's Creed Unity, 900p at 30 FPS on consoles, but on PC you require a supercomputer, 6 gig of RAM, 50 gig hard drive space, 64-bit version of Windows, a decent CPU, Core i5 2500K or AMD FX 8350, and then you need a GTX 680 or HD 7970. Ubisoft, whatever you're smoking, pass it over here because I definitely want to get as high as what you are right now. And then we're moving on to another Ubisoft title. So it's another complete crap fest from the company. So about a week ago, we found out about the new Far Cry 4 Season Pass. So something that's going to cost $30. You're actually going to get a couple of things with it. You're going to get the Syringe, Escape from Durgesh Prison. I hope I pronounced that good, well. Herc Deluxe Pack, Overrun, and Valley of the Yetis or Yetis. So a couple of things there you can see there. Overrun, which is here, you can team up with people in a player versus player mode and control a series of neutral locations across Kyrat's, or I hope I pronounced that right. I'm really bad with this pronunciation on some of these words. Across the countryside to protect them from being overrun by your opponents. Now, that's well and good, but player versus player, and you're charging me $30. So what the hell? I'm paying $30 now for multiplayer. Yeah, that makes no sense, Ubisoft, and it needs to stop now. Multiplayer in those kinds of games, especially a game like Far Cry 4, should be free. You shouldn't be charging for it. Please remove that. And if you don't, I'm not buying the game. On principle alone. It's completely bloody ridiculous that I'm having to pay $30 to do something that I could do in 3D Realms games 20 years ago, which we just showed you just then, and they never had to talk about it like it was a feature. Oh, the latest feature in this game is multiplayer. You can play with your friends, but by the way, pay $30 for it. No. So, Assassin's Creed Unity required 6 gig of RAM and 50 gig of hard drive space. Well, Activision had to do one up. The new Call of Duty Advanced Warfare requires 6 gig of RAM and 55 gig of hard drive space. So we reported, I don't know how long ago, wasn't that long ago, August 9, that the new Call of Duty Advanced Warfare required 40 gig hard drive space, but this requirement has been increased to 55 gig. Now, even though this Call of Duty has reportedly been built from the ground up to have a better graphics engine, and it does look like a big improvement over the previous Call of Duties, sans the destructible environment that the Frostbite engine offers in Battlefield 4, or even Battlefield 3 or Battlefield Bad Company 2, like so many games that are better than Call of Duty. The bare minimum requirements. So we still have a 64-bit operating system like we see and require with Assassin's Creed Unity, but the CPU requirements are a lot less strenuous, so it's a lot more tame. So all you need is a Core i3 530 at 2.93 gigahertz from Intel, or the Phenom 2 Export 810 at 2.8 gigahertz or better from AMD. You still require 6 gig of RAM, but the GPU requirements are a hell of a lot lower. It's something I would have liked to have seen with Assassin's Creed. So you need a minimum GeForce GTS, not GTX, GTS 450, which is a pretty much a low-end card now from NVIDIA, or the HD 5870 1 gig of RAM from AMD. And 55 gig of hard drive space, which is just insane. Like, what the hell are you installing onto my hard drive space? Like, is it textures? 55 gig of textures? What is it? I don't get it. Activision, Sledgehammer Games, what the hell? 55 gig. These consoles come with 500 gig of hard drive space. You install Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty, you're going through a 50 gig hard drive space for 2 games. And our last story is a mega producer has left Ubisoft after 10 years. Jade Raymond was a veteran of Ubisoft. She was a producer at the company who worked on some massive games, such as Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and even Watch Dogs. After 10 years, she's left the company. Raymond said in a press release, "I've spent 10 extraordinary years at Ubisoft, and I'm proud to have been part of many of the best teams in the industry making truly remarkable games." Obviously at 30 FPS, but hey, still. So she continued, "This is one of the hardest decisions of my career, but the Toronto studio is strong and on a solid path. I'm confident that now is a good time for me to transition leadership to the studio to Alex and to pursue my other ambitions and new opportunities. Stay tuned for more on what's next for me, but for now I'd like to thank Ubisoft for its partnership through the years, and I wish them the very best in their next endeavors." So after 10 years, an Ubisoft producer has left the company, which is it's a long time to spend at a single company, and to leave after that kind of time is something that you would not normally expect. 10 years is a long time, but obviously she's on to bigger and better things, and most likely at 60 frames a second. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you next week. Between now and then, we are going to be attending PAX Australia. I am pumped for PAX Australia. Last year's PAX was the first in the country, and it was amazing. It was the biggest event ever in the country for games, and I'm truly, truly excited to be covering that next week. So expect a podcast for that next week as well. Thanks for tuning in.